Before the sun paints the sky with light, there is a sacred moment, a stillness where mountains listen. It's not the time to complain about the mountain, fear the mountain, or walk away from it. It's the time to speak to the mountain. Because before sunrise, when the world is still and heaven leans close, your words carry a power unseen by the sleeping world. Before the world awakens, before the noise of life begins, there is a divine appointment waiting for you. Heaven listens closely in the early hour. When you rise before sunrise, you step into a sacred moment where your words carry creative force. It's not the time to rehearse your fears, it's the time to release your faith. Every word that proceeds from your mouth in that hour has the ability to set the rhythm for your day and the direction for your destiny. You are not called to climb the mountain, you are called to speak to the mountain. For it is written that if you say to this mountain, "Be removed and cast into the sea," and do not doubt in your heart, it shall be done. Say why, that is the beginning. Nothing changes until you open your mouth. Silence gives the mountain permission to stay. Words of faith give heaven permission to move. The mountain may not be made of rock. It might be fear, lack, sickness, or rejection. But the principle is the same: speak. Because the mountain recognizes authority. Authority is not in volume. It is in conviction. When you speak the word of faith, the mountain must respond. The unseen world recognizes a believer who understands their dominion. What you say before the sun rises carries power to command what happens before it sets. BLIEV, for your words are only as strong as your belief behind them. Faith is not hoping God will do it someday, it is knowing He has done it already. You don't speak to persuade God, you speak to align with Him. When you believe, you are not testing possibilities, you are standing on realities. The mountain moves not because of your effort, but because your belief activates divine law. Believing transforms prayer into manifestation. Many speak but do not see because they speak from doubt, not from faith. Your belief gives life to your declaration. FARGIV, because an unforgiving heart cannot carry the current of faith. You cannot command a mountain while holding a grudge. The same faith that moves mountains also demands mercy. Before you speak to the mountain, speak to your own heart. Release what you've been holding. Forgiveness doesn't justify the wrong, it frees you from its weight. The moment you forgive, heaven breathes through you again. The power that was blocked begins to flow. Faith works by love, and love begins with forgiveness. The mountain may not move because of what's before you, but because of what's within you. Rasa IV, and this is where faith matures. Many speak and believe, but stop short of receiving. To receive means to take hold of what has already been given. It means you walk as though it's already done, talk as though it's already yours, and live as though heaven has already answered. Faith receives before it sees. Receiving is the evidence that belief is complete. Before sunrise, when you declare God's word, don't end your prayer in doubt. End it in thanksgiving. Give thanks not because it will happen, but because it has happened in the Spirit. Before sunrise, speak to your mountain. Don't wait for others to join you. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Faith doesn't wait for the light to appear. It creates it. The darkness of the early hour is not your limitation, it is your invitation. When you speak the word before the dawn, the mountain begins to crumble before daylight. The world might not understand your declarations, but heaven records them. Every morning you rise and speak faith. You are building a spiritual momentum that cannot be stopped. The mountain you face today will bow to the word you speak in faith. Your authority is not borrowed, it is divine. When you say it, believe it, forgive freely, and receive boldly, you align yourself with heaven's order. Before sunrise, when the earth is still, speak to your mountain and watch the impossible move. Because mountains do not move by time, they move by truth. Before sunrise, when the air is still and creation seems to hold its breath, there exists a divine window where heaven listens closely to the voice of faith. It is in this moment that you are called not to think about the mountain, not to worry about it, but to speak to it. Because what you say before the sun rises determines what you will face when the sun sets. The unseen realm moves in response to words that are spoken in faith, not thoughts left unspoken. The spiritual law that governs victory begins with what proceeds from your mouth. Words are not empty sounds, they are spiritual forces that carry power to shape outcomes. The mountain before you recognizes only one thing, authority, and authority is released through speech. You cannot whisper defeat and expect triumph. You cannot declare fear and expect faith to stand tall. The moment you open your mouth and declare what God has already said about your situation, you begin to participate in divine creation. You may not see movement at first, but faith does not depend on sight. It depends on the conviction that your words carry the same creative breath that once spoke light into darkness. Every sunrise is an opportunity for you to frame your day with divine order. Before the voices of men, before the noise of the world, speak to the mountain with the language of victory. The mountain might represent your debt, your sickness, your fear, your broken relationship, or your inner doubt, but the principle is unchanging. The mountain will move in response to the voice of faith. Do not wait for someone else to pray for you or to speak for you, because your mountain responds to your voice. There is power in your declaration. When you say what you believe, the mountain begins to lose its place of permanence and starts shifting under the authority of your faith. The reason many remain stuck is not because the mountain is too big, but because their words are too small. The lips of faith command the mountain to move. The lips of doubt give it permission to stay. Speak not from emotion, but from revelation. When you rise before dawn and begin to declare with authority, you are not trying to convince God to do something. You are aligning yourself with what He has already done. Faith does not beg, it decrees. Faith does not plead, it proclaims. Every word you speak in the early hour is a seed that will meet you later in the day as a harvest. The mountain may resist for a while, but the word spoken in faith cannot return empty. Heaven watches over your declarations, ensuring that what you release in faith will not be void. When you speak, believe that what you say carries creative force. The word of faith must be planted in the soil of consistency. Speak until what you say becomes more real to you than what you see. Do not speak what you feel, speak what you desire to see. Feelings fluctuate, but the word stands firm. The authority of your words is not in their emotion, but in their alignment with truth. Every syllable of faith spoken before sunrise echoes in the spirit realm with the authority of the one who created all things by His word. Speak to your body if it is weak. Speak to your finances if they seem dry. Speak to your peace if it feels disturbed. Speak to your mountain not as a victim, but as a victor. You are not pleading with the mountain to move. You are commanding it to obey. The mountain cannot resist the authority of truth. When you speak with unwavering confidence, you invite the power of heaven to enforce your declaration. Many fail to see change because they speak for a moment and then doubt for hours, but those who speak continually in faith become immovable. Before sunrise, while others sleep, the spiritual world listens for the voice of those who dare to believe. The angels respond to words of faith, not words of fear. The mountain does not care about how long you have been praying. It moves when you start speaking from faith. The authority is not in the time you've spent in the struggle, but in the truth you've spoken over it. Speak deliberately, not casually. Every word that leaves your mouth before dawn should carry purpose. Say what heaven says about you. Call yourself healed, call yourself blessed, call yourself delivered, and call yourself free. Do not let the darkness of the morning convince you that nothing is happening. Mountains move first in the invisible before they disappear in the visible. When you say it, you release the command. When you believe it, you sustain the command. And when you refuse to retract your words, the mountain must yield. Before sunrise, you are not just talking, you are creating. You are setting spiritual laws into motion. You are releasing words that angels carry and mountains must obey. Every command spoken in faith echoes beyond time and space. Your early declarations prepare your day for divine alignment. Speak boldly, speak consistently, speak as one who knows their authority. Because when the sun rises, it will not only shine upon the mountain, it will shine upon your victory. Believing is the inner power that gives life to every word you speak. You may say all the right things, but if belief is absent, your words will carry no creative force. Faith begins where doubt ends, and it grows where sight stops. To believe is to take hold of what you cannot yet see and to stand firm on what you know is already done. When you rise before sunrise and begin to speak to your mountain, it is not enough to simply say the words. You must believe with all your heart that what you declare will come to pass. Belief is not an emotional burst, it is a spiritual conviction. It is the unwavering assurance that your words are backed by divine authority. Many people speak in prayer yet see no change because their words are filled with uncertainty. But the one who believes knows that the unseen world is already responding. When you believe, you do not wait for evidence, you create evidence. Faith is not hoping that something might happen. It is knowing that it has already been set in motion. The mountain moves when belief and speech unite. When you believe, doubt loses its power, fear loses its voice, and time loses its pressure. You begin to operate from the reality of completion, not the frustration of delay. Belief transforms the impossible into the inevitable. It rewrites your internal language, replacing questions with declarations, hesitation with confidence, and anxiety with assurance. When belief takes root, your words carry weight. Every syllable you utter becomes a spiritual command. The mountain cannot resist a heart that truly believes. It is belief that draws the unseen into the seen. Your belief must be fed daily by the Word, for faith does not live on emotion. It lives on revelation. The world tells you to believe when you see. Faith tells you to see because you believe. Every morning before sunrise, renew your conviction. See the answer before it arrives. Speak the victory before the battle, and stand in peace before the breakthrough. Faith is not a feeling of strength. It is a decision to trust. Even when nothing looks different, your belief declares that everything has changed. When you believe, your tone shifts, your posture strengthens, and your spirit aligns with heaven. You stop waiting for change. You start being the change. Belief is a spiritual law that activates divine partnership. Heaven responds to belief as surely as the earth responds to rain. What you believe determines what you receive. Your words plant the seed, but belief waters it. Many people pray and speak, yet their heart argues with their mouth. The lips declare faith while the heart whispers doubt. But pure belief brings the two into unity. Before sunrise, when you speak, allow your belief to rise with your words. Let your conviction match your confession. Faith that believes is not passive, it acts. It behaves as if the miracle is already completed. The one who believes speaks differently, walks differently, and expects differently. When belief fills your heart, fear has no room to stay. The mountain may stand tall, but your faith stands taller. Belief refuses to measure the obstacle. It measures the word. It sees not the problem, but the promise. When you believe, time cannot wear you down because you are anchored in eternal truth. Each morning, your belief becomes a key that unlocks the door of manifestation. You no longer ask, will it happen? You declare, it has happened. That is the difference between speaking from hope and speaking from faith. Hope desires, belief knows. When belief governs your spirit, even the silence of waiting becomes sacred, for you understand that the unseen is aligning in your favor. The mountain begins to tremble not because of your effort, but because of your assurance. When you believe, your mind finds peace even in storms, because faith is a rest, not a struggle. The sunrise then becomes a symbol of manifestation, proof that what was spoken in the darkness is now being revealed in the light. Every word of belief spoken before dawn is a spiritual seed planted in fertile soil. It may take time for the mountain to crumble, but belief guarantees that it will. Belief is not moved by delay, it is strengthened by persistence. Each morning you rise to speak again. Your belief grows deeper roots. Speak with assurance, stand with conviction, and walk with peace. Because when you believe, the mountain has already begun to move. Forgiveness is the silent strength behind faith, the unseen force that allows your words to reach heaven without interference. You cannot carry resentment in your heart and expect mountains to move at your command. A heart that holds bitterness cannot flow in divine authority, for unforgiveness blocks the channel through which faith operates. When you rise before sunrise to speak to your mountain, you must first examine your heart. The first mountain that must be spoken to is often not outside of you, but within you. It is the mountain of offense, pride, pain, or anger. When you hold on to what someone has done to you, you hold back what God desires to do through you. Forgiveness does not mean you approve of the wrong, it means you refuse to let it control you. Every time you forgive, you release spiritual weight and open the pathway for divine flow. The power of faith works through love, and love cannot exist where bitterness reigns. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is the highest expression of spiritual strength. When you forgive, you are saying, nothing anyone has done is powerful enough to stop what God will do in me. Forgiveness aligns your heart with heaven's rhythm. It restores clarity to your spirit, peace to your mind, and freedom to your words. You can speak boldly only when your heart is free from offense. When your heart is burdened with resentment, your faith becomes heavy and your prayers feel empty. But when you release that weight before sunrise, your words begin to fly with divine precision. Forgiveness makes your faith light, strong, and unstoppable. The act of forgiving is not an event of emotion, but an act of decision. You may not feel it at first, but faith is not about feelings. It is about alignment. When you choose to forgive, heaven witnesses your obedience and grace begins to flow again. Forgiveness does not excuse the wrong, it transforms the wound. What once was a source of pain becomes a testimony of power. You cannot speak peace and hold strife at the same time. One must leave for the other to reign. When you forgive, you clear the ground for your faith to grow. The soil of the heart must be pure if the seed of faith is to bear fruit. Many speak powerful words but see no results because their faith is being choked by hidden resentment. Every time you speak against someone, you weaken the foundation of your own declaration. Forgiveness silences the noise of the past so you can hear the voice of truth clearly. Before sunrise, take a moment to release every name, every face, every situation that has wounded you. Do not let yesterday's offense steal today's authority. When you forgive, you open your spirit to divine strength. Your mountain may have stood tall because unforgiveness built walls around your faith. But once you release it, those walls begin to crumble and faith begins to flow like a river. Forgiveness renews your sensitivity to the Spirit. You begin to sense peace again, hear clearly again, and believe freely again. It cleanses the channel of communication between heaven and your heart. Once that connection is clear, your words gain heavenly backing. The power to move mountains returns when the power of love is restored. Forgiveness is the soil in which faith grows strong and steady. When you forgive, you are not losing anything. You are gaining everything. You gain freedom from torment, clarity of thought, and access to divine favor. Many try to receive without forgiving, but that is like trying to draw water from a sealed well. Unforgiveness traps your blessings, but forgiveness opens the floodgates. It shifts your focus from pain to promise, from the past to the present, from victimhood to victory. When you forgive, you take control of your destiny. You refuse to let the enemy use bitterness as a chain to keep you bound. Forgiveness allows you to walk in love, and love empowers your faith to operate without limitation. When you forgive, heaven records it as an act of faith. Before sunrise, as you prepare to speak to your mountain, forgive those who hurt you, forgive yourself for your mistakes, and even forgive life for the seasons that seemed unfair. Let go of what was so you can receive what is to come. The sunrise symbolizes a new beginning, and forgiveness is the key that opens that dawn. When your heart is free, your words carry new power. You will notice that peace returns, joy rises, and your declarations begin to manifest with ease. Mountains that once refused to move will begin to tremble, not because your words are louder, but because your heart is lighter. A forgiving heart is a victorious heart. Before the light of day touches the earth, stand in that quiet place and release it all. For the moment you forgive, the mountain begins to move. Receiving is the final expression of faith, the moment when belief is no longer spoken as a hope but lived as a certainty. It is the place where words and conviction meet manifestation. Many people pray, many believe, but few truly receive. To receive is to take what heaven has already made available and make it your personal reality. It is to live with the assurance that what you declared before sunrise already exists in the unseen realm and is now aligning in the seen. The one who receives does not keep asking again and again as if God hasn't heard. Instead, they thank Him because they know He has. Receiving begins with a shift in mindset, moving from expectation to possession. When you wake before sunrise and speak your declarations, you must also enter the position of one who has already received. That means your words of prayer must end in thanksgiving, not repetition. You thank Him not because you are waiting for something to happen, but because something has already happened. Faith receives at the moment of believing, not at the moment of seeing. The eyes may not yet see the answer, but the heart knows it is done. When you truly receive, you begin to act differently. You carry yourself as one who already possesses the promise. You speak differently, walk differently, think differently, and expect differently. To receive is to align your behavior with your belief, to walk as though heaven has already delivered what you declared. Receiving is not an emotional reaction, it is a spiritual posture. The one who has received does not doubt when things appear unchanged. They understand that manifestation begins in the unseen before it appears in the natural. To receive is to rest while waiting, to remain unshaken while others panic, to live in peace when circumstances try to shout otherwise. The spirit of receiving does not depend on visible evidence, it depends on inner assurance. When you rise before sunrise and declare the word, you are writing a decree that heaven has already signed. You are not trying to convince God to act, you are acknowledging that He already has. True faith does not say, "One day I will have it." It says, "It is mine now." The posture of a receiver is gratitude. Gratitude is not just good manners, it is the language of faith. Thanksgiving seals your declaration. It completes the spiritual circuit between heaven and earth. When you receive, you begin to thank God in advance, and that gratitude becomes a magnet that draws manifestation closer. The mountain that stood before you begins to move not because you begged it to, but because you received the authority to command it. The universe responds to a believer who knows how to receive. Every act of receiving is an act of honoring the word. To refuse to receive is to doubt that what was promised is truly yours. But when you receive, you confirm heaven's truth in the earth. To receive is to act as though the victory has already been won. When you receive healing, you begin to speak health. When you receive provision, you begin to see abundance. When you receive peace, you stop rehearsing fear. Faith that receives refuses to wait for confirmation. It lives from revelation. The moment you say, "I have it," you activate a chain of divine alignment that brings the invisible into the visible. The person who receives walks with quiet confidence, not arrogance, but assurance. They are not anxious about when or how because they know the promise is already delivered. When you receive, you stop fighting for what's already yours. You stop striving and start resting. Rest is the proof of reception. You cannot truly receive and still live in worry. Worry is the language of doubt. Rest is the sound of faith. To receive before sunrise means you walk into the day with peace, knowing that heaven is already working behind the scenes. The one who receives doesn't need to force things. They flow in divine timing. They trust that what is theirs will find its way to them because it already belongs to them. That trust keeps their heart steady and their spirit strong. Receiving is a declaration that the process is complete. Before sunrise, when you speak to your mountain, you must also see yourself standing on the other side of it. You must talk like one who has crossed over, like one who already possesses what they prayed for. The mountain only moves for those who have already received in their spirit the victory they desire in the natural. When you say believe and forgive, you prepare the ground. But when you receive, you harvest the promise. Receiving is the highest act of faith because it says, "I am no longer asking, I am living in it." The early morning light symbolizes that moment of manifestation when what was once unseen begins to appear. You cannot receive with a closed heart. You must open your spirit to the flow of divine fulfillment. To receive is to stop measuring time and start trusting eternity. Everything you declared before sunrise begins to align with the rhythm of heaven the moment you receive it as done. That is when peace settles, joy rises, and the mountain finally bows. Receiving transforms your prayer into possession, your declaration into demonstration, and your faith into fulfillment. When you receive, the dawn breaks not just on the horizon, but within you. For the light of manifestation always follows the voice of faith that dares to receive.